Welcome to the Brave Talk Show, the show for brave women craving the connection that comes with real conversations. We are four unique women coming together with different perspectives, passions, and experiences. Our goal is to foster healing and connection by making the uncomfortable comfortable. Let's be brave here.
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show. Brave women, bold topics, nothing is off the table. Today, I am so excited because we are talking about a newfound favorite book of mine. It is called Magnetic Femininity. It's by Allie Duzett, and it has been a life-changing book for me, and I do not use that word lightly. There have been a handful of books in my life that have changed it and changed the trajectory, changed and just impacted every single day. One of those books is a self-compassion book by Kristen Neff. Completely rewired my brain and changed everything about my life. And this book is in that category.
Wow.
It's amazing. I've been talking to everybody I know about this book. I talk to my husband probably an hour a day about what I read. And he's so awesome. And he's just like, yes,
he
does.
Take it in. He's like, okay.
Because he's also, and it's been changing our relationship.
Okay.
He's been seeing the changes of it, and he's been so much more open to things because of it. And it's just given us something to bond about. He's been like, oh, that makes sense. And then it's helped me understand him better, helped me understand myself better. It's amazing.
So give us a little
synopsis.
Well, first of all, who
Synopsis
told you to read it?
Okay, so my friend who I homeschool with, her name is Sarah Chapman. She recommended it, and she's like, I've read it 4 times.
Oh, wow.
It's so good. I'm starting to put a book club together. If you guys want to join it, do it. And I've been like, okay. But she started telling me about how wonderful it was for her and how life-changing. She's like, literally read it 4 times. And so I'm like, okay, I don't read a lot of books. I like fiction books better, but I just like the self-help books. It takes a lot for me because I feel like I'm always going. And I'm like, for me to sit and put thought into a book and not just be able to turn off and escape, is something that I don't.
I'm kind of like that too. I'm more of like I can't read the self-help books.
Yeah. So it was a big deal for me to try it. And from the very first chapter, I just felt like my shoulders relaxed and I was able to breathe deeper. Like it resonated immediately with me, so much so that I was like, oh. And then I started chatting my husband's ear off. And he was like, oh, I get it. Like, he's like, that makes sense. And then the more I've read, the more I've been like, oh my gosh,
Okay.
I love it.
Tell us about it.
So it really pushes back on what people view feminine energy like right now. So if you were to think of a feminist right now, tell me what a feminist looks like to you. What's a modern feminist look like?
They're all about girl power and women are better and we don't need men. And
I think it.
Right?
I think it also differed because I think like for some people, maybe the younger generation, it's more like they don't need men. But I think like when you look at older, at least for me, my generation, it's just kind of like being able to, be in my. Like, I think for me in my home, like, there's not like, we have a role, but it's not like the traditional, like, okay, the husband do this, the da-da-da. Like me, I want a man. Like I have my man. I love being married. Like being a feminine doesn't mean like I don't, you know what I mean? So I think for everybody, it means something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if you look at younger generation, I think we even see it now where they're like, I don't need a man. I need a man that need this. I need a man. But for me, I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's just finding like, being powerful, being you within who you are, you know what I mean? Owning it without having to put other people down to be powerful.
yeah.
What I've noticed, and I think Vanessa's right in that everybody kind of takes it their own way.
Yeah.
But if I were to see it as a larger scale, what I would see is like maybe a stereotype of what I've seen. And thinking about the topic of feminine, is it seems like it's almost the opposite. So a feminist, even though we see the word feminine in there, I feel like the culture has taught that it's almost like a woman taking on a man's role in not a role in like, whatever your beliefs about men are, but a woman can go to work, a woman can wear pants, a woman can be strong. And I'm not saying any of those things are bad. And they make sense, but I just feel like almost like they lessened their femininity and took on traditional masculine traits in an effort to show that we're equal. When that's not the heart of feminism. The heart of feminism is, yes, we're equal, but we can still be our authentic, like who we were supposed to be and still be equal. But I think there's been confusion as what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I think some women have thought mistakenly that you're supposed to act like a man in order to be equal to a man, when that's not the case at all.
And I think that's why it's going to differ from like across culture, generation, and personal beliefs. So I think that's going to be what's different for people. And so I think that's why I'm excited to hear like, what does the book, because it's going to be different when you think of culture. Because then if you look at the women that are from Middle East, right? They're trying to become where man has controlled their life. So many, you know what I mean? I don't think they're trying, like you explained, they're not trying to become a man, but they're trying to get their equality.
They're trying to get rights.
Yeah, their rights. So it's going to look different. So that's why I'm kind of excited what it's going to look like, because culturally it's going to look different for some people.
Especially in like America, where we have some of those things are not a problem. Like, what does that look like in America, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think you guys are going to love this book, and I'm going to recommend that you read it. The preface of this book is that that's not true femininity. And I would agree with all of you that that's what I see in our society today, is that women want to be equal. They want to go to work. They want to hold those CEO positions. They want to do everything that a man does. And they want to prove that they can do it, that they're just as capable as men. And I agree, women are just as capable as men. But this book is saying that our divine origin, we were designed differently. That men and women were designed to correlate together, yin and yang, that there's a masculine power and men were born capable of doing things and programmed, like pre-programmed to do things that a woman was not. And that a woman was pre-programmed to be more soft and relaxed and to be more of a receiving energy instead of the leading, take charge, masculine, protect energy. And this woman Allie claims that when a woman is truly feminine and a man, she allows the man to truly be masculine, and that there's nothing that a man wants more than to be masculine and protect his woman. Mm-hmm. That men are programmed to protect and provide, and that when a woman is truly happy, then the man is happy. Like the woman's happiness is the man's like greatest desire. That our husbands and our partners want us to be happy. And when we're not happy, that actually takes a toll on them. Mm-hmm. Because they're built to solve problems. They're built to help us, right? Mm-hmm. And like in one part of the book, she talks about relationships being a dance. And yes, the male leads that dance, but the dance is actually all about showcasing the woman. And she's who the dance is really all about. I have so many quotes in here. One of the things that she talks about is that our feelings, a woman's feelings, are actually our superpower. And I remember that being a really big deal for me because I've always thought I was too emotional, that my emotions spilled out too much, that I needed to be more logical and more self-centered or not more self-centered. That's not the right word. Wrong word. More grounded, more centered. And Allie explains it that we were designed divinely to be emotional beings, that the female feminine energy was designed with emotions to guide our life. And that when we're truly in tune with our emotions, then that's our superpower. That's what's going to guide humanity to be aligned and be in tune with what we actually need. And so she gives you all of these like journal prompts and different things to do to like make sure that you're in tune with your feelings. But she claims that if you share those feelings with your husband in a true and safe way, instead of like, I'm annoyed. I've asked you to do this, to fix this project in the kitchen. The kitchen drawer is broke. I've asked you to do it 5 times. I'm really annoyed that you haven't done it yet. That comes at him as an attack. And of course, he's going to be defensive and he's going to be like, ugh, and that's going to be a nag, right? And that's a lot of marriages, a lot of relationships with the masculine and the feminine. That's where problems creep in. And she starts sharing her feelings, right? I say feelings in air quotes, because that's what she thinks she's feeling. But if she were to actually go down deep and figure out what's really causing it, it's not just annoyed. Annoyed actually isn't a feeling, is what this Allie, she said, feelings don't typically end in ED words. And so I tested this. So everything that I've been learning, I tested this with my husband. And I was telling my sister-in-law about it, and she watched the interaction between me and my husband. And she's like, "Where's your book? I'm going to go read it.
Okay, tell us all about the interaction.
So I'll tell you what happened and how it would have normally played out as well. So we drove down to St. George for a family reunion. We were hosting it. My husband's like, let's go boating. We'll drive the boat down, haul it down to St. George with us. But he's like, I'm not going to look at anything beforehand. Like I'll take off the cover and everything once we get to St. George. And I'm like, fine, whatever. I'm going to let you take off, right? You do it all. I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to nag. I'm not going to do anything like take control is essentially, I'm going to give you control over it. So we drive down to St. George. We have a great family reunion. It's time to go Friday morning. It's time to go boating. Guess what? The boat won't turn on. The batteries are completely dead. You can't even charge them. Like they need to be replaced. It's a full fix. And he came to me and he's like, we can't go boat. And boating, if you know, because of my accident, because of Benton's accident, we haven't been on the boat since. But in a week, we're going to Lake Powell again. And I told Bennett it was really important for me to get on the boat before we got to Lake Powell. Like I need to process a bunch of stuff. And that was the St. George trip was for. So anyway, he comes to me. He's like, we can't go boating, blah, blah, blah. And instead of telling him, like going and blaming him and being like, this is why I take charge. This is why I usually get involved because you should have checked before. We hauled the whole boat down, 4 hours of driving. Like you should have checked. I knew you should have checked. And I wanted you to check before. Like instead of doing any of that, all I told him, you guys, is I looked at him and I said, I'm really sad. And I actually started crying. And I said that I'm really sad right now. I was really excited to go boating. You know that there's a lot involved in this. I'm feeling really sad. And then I left it at that. A few minutes later, well, it wasn't a few minutes, probably 20 minutes later, like he came up behind me. I was doing the dishes, getting the Airbnb ready to check out. And he just came up behind me and gave me a big hug. And he's like, I'm really sorry that I didn't do the boat. I should have done. And he went through all of the things that I would have said to him, right? Like he took 100% accountability. It's on me. I did this. I should have done it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm really sorry. And we didn't get in a fight, which if I hadn't done what I did, we would have 100% gotten a fight.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like if you had said to him, this is why I take control. You should have done this. If I was involved, this would have been solved. How would he have responded to that?
A couple ways. One, that would have demeaned him. That would have made him feel like a little boy, right? Like I would have suddenly been the dominating person in the relationship. I would have been putting him down and kind of like pointing my finger at him. He would have felt attacked 100%. And even if he would have been humble enough to be like, she's right, it still would have made him feel awful. And it would have been like, oh, she's grumpy. She's a porcupine. I'm going to leave her alone. It wouldn't have brought us together.
It would have created distance.
Disconnect.
Yeah. And we've done that a million times over the past 18 years. And that's just one example. We've been doing it several times where I've and Allie teaches it in the book. So you have to read the book, but that's what she's like. If you share your feelings in a safe way, in the correct way, your man 100% of the time will step up. If you say, I feel stress and I feel it tight in my shoulders, then he biologically is made to rise to the occasion and be like, how can I solve that stress for her? And then he'll talk, then you guys can talk about it and be like, well, I'm really stressed because I've been doing all of the dishes by myself this week. You've been working so much and I've been alone. Guess what? He's going to rise to the occasion and be like, I'm going to help her. And that's the whole preface of the book. And there's so much more to it, like so much more to it. But that's kind of like a long synopsis of it, is that men and women are wired differently. And when women truly become in their feminine energy, and I'm missing a bunch. Like women are dependent. That's another thing that she says. And that's not a bad thing. That's so often in our culture, we want to be independent. We want to be strong. We want to be noted for all of these accolades and all these things that we're doing and chasing. But she's like, do you realize how dependent women truly are? Like your safety every single day is actually dependent on men not taking advantage of you because we're so inferior in strength, right? Right? So she points out all of these different things. And I've just been like, oh my gosh, I have been living in a masculine controlling energy for so long. And she talks about how your controlling energy is really based on fear. Like every time you try to control something, it's because there's something that's scaring you underneath it.
It's interesting that you say that, because immediately I'm like thinking about the feminist culture that we were just talking about. And I know that arose in the mid to late 1800s. And then we saw another wave of it in the 1960s. And, we see what it has come to, right? I think it had a lot of really good intentions, and there was a lot of reasons for it. But, given that we see a lot of masculine energy associated with it, I wonder if women in general, like we're wired obviously to be feminine in that, but I wonder if we tap into our masculine more as a safety mechanism when we feel threatened, unprotected, unsafe. And I wonder if that feminist movement was a tapping into the masculine energy of women as a counteract to some of the issues that women were having in those times, not being able to vote, not being able to divorce their husbands when their husbands were abusive, things like that. And so then we saw this movement come out of it, and then, some good things came out of it. But then we also seen some things that are, I don't really know if I like that anymore. And now we're seeing like a resurgence, almost like it seems like we're now having like a pendulum swing, where now people are starting to like revisit this idea of femininity and what that means.
I think for me, I don't know, because I'm putting, as I'm listening, I'm trying to put my social worker hat on a little bit. So kind of like an outside thinking to it all. Can you hear me? So in that, when you say the safety thing, because as you were speaking, as you were telling about the book, that's all I was kind of like thinking for women. So there's like the good that I think. So I think there's some good thing for the book for people that are in a relationship that is secure. I think like as you were talking about Benton doing those things, I'm like, you probably had to do so much work for Benton to be able to, because you did it, but then Benton somehow just jumped in and do it. But then if you go back, sorry, I'm going to use your relationship, your ex, your past. If you think of a relationship of right here, Robin and her ex before, and she take that stand of that femininity, I don't think the response would have been the same, because there was not that safety net. So the reason I think the femininity, we live in a culture where also men, like we're saying, women do all this work, and I think it's beautiful what they're saying to become, but there's not the safety of men. There's not a lot of men that create that safe space for women to fall into that safety net, because you're asking women to be vulnerable, to literally unleash you know what I mean? So when you think of divorce, we have to think of the divorce rate. People are getting divorced because of those things. So you have single mom that has to become the protector, that has to become the provider, that has to become the person. I think Robin, sorry, I keep coming to the great example of like when her life fall in shamble, which she didn't think was going to happen. If she was that woman, I think that's what's a little hard in our culture of Mormonism. We are, think of like men as the patriarchy, right? They're the one that take all the roles. But I think what we do notice in that, when the woman give that, visibility of like, take care of me, I'm going to trust you, and that partner is not ready to and be able to receive that, and life falls apart, then that woman has to come together. So when we're looking at divorce in our culture, these women are coming back and say, I'm looking for a job. I need to find a way to feed my kids, because they've entrusted that man to take care of them. And so I think it works in a lot of marriage when there's safety, when there's trust. And I think like we all have that example, because I think your marriage is beautiful. I think from the beginning of recording, I think like 4 years ago of Benton and the involvement, it's like, that is beautiful. And I think like for me and my husband, I probably can do the same thing, because there's that safety, and probably the same thing.
I have some thoughts.
Wait, so there is a whole chapter.
Yeah.
There are chapters in here about single moms and how single moms do have to step into the masculine more often than men.
I have some thoughts on this because I am a divorced mom and my life looks very different. So I, just like Brittany, I can like see her passion and excitement fell upon the masculine and feminine about 5 years ago. So my community, the logo is actually a yin and yang. And my very first stack of universe bracelets is the yin and the yang, because I'm obsessed with masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
And I think the world focuses a lot on the logistics of the masculine and the feminine, who's working, who's providing, whatnot.
Yeah.
That is not actually what masculine and feminine energy is. It's how you correlate with your intimate partner. So in my house, I do have more of a masculine role. I'm the provider financially. I take care of my children. I have to lean into masculine a lot of different ways. So I have to be very conscious of making sure I lean back into my feminine in my emotional relationship.
It's like a balance.
It's a balance. And men and women have to have both. So I have masculine energy and feminine. And Dane also has masculine energy, and he's lacked a lot of feminine energy. So our yin and yang cannot and has not been balanced because
He's missing that part.
maybe I have too much masculine and he doesn't have enough feminine. So we have been doing a lot of work. I'm a Reiki master, which is like I study energy. And so I love the masculine and feminine energy. And I think people get it confused with like roles.
Mm-hmm.
And those are definitely important, like roles or our
Like
political
the
party.
traditionals,
Like those things are
Yeah.
masculine and feminine. But I think what Brittany's trying to talk about is energetically, it's very different. So if you were to look at me, I am a driver, a provider. I look more in my masculine now than ever before because I'm divorced and I have to provide for my family and I wanted to stay in my house, while confidently saying I've never been more feminine energetically.
Yeah.
So those are two different things. And I want to make sure you understand we're talking about the energies, especially in your intimate relationships. So to kind of piggyback off what Vanessa was saying, if you want to really, really lean into your feminine energy, you have to be with a safe masculine man.
Yes.
Now, they're also going to need coaching. I mean, I've been through so many programs, like with my therapist, I had a feminine energy coach for a long time. And this is the type of work I actually do on my retreats. So everyone's like, what do you do there? Literally this, masculine and feminine energy
I love
work.
that.
Like
I
that's
didn't
what
know
we're
that.
actually doing at the Awaken retreat coming up in just 3 weeks. So you can be masculine in your traditional roles and still be very feminine.
Yeah.
I'm embodying that right now. I am the driver. I'm a masculine on paper, but I've
Very
never
time.
been more feminine. Now that's not going to work if Dane doesn't understand these same concepts. Now he, like when he came into the relationship, was like a baby deer who's like, masculine, feminine, what does that mean? Like had no idea at an energetic level. So we've been doing a lot of coaching and a lot of mentoring, and we're now in couples therapy for this exact same thing because he leans too far into his masculine and he doesn't hold any feminine energy, which makes it so I have to keep compensating in different ways. And so it's a really beautiful thing. But yes, it will not work if you have someone who's not safe. Now, this is like next level woo-woo if you want to get into it, but there's attachment styles that pull all this in, and mother and wound. So Dane has a mother wound, and because I know all about this, I can see exactly where I'm triggering him. I can see exactly where I have to actually absorb his masculine because he is acting like a little boy. So it's like there's like layers and layers and layers. But if you start to study your magnetic energy, like in relationships, it has nothing to do with who does the dishes. It has nothing to do with who makes the money. That is like such a topical level of masculine and feminine. You can still make all the money. I'm the main provider, and I absolutely am the feminine energy. So you have to be able to move those apart and start working energetically. And that's where I'm really passionate about. And I'm just sitting here like seeing you light up. You're like, oh my gosh. I remember those same conversations where I'm like, why didn't anyone teach me this? Like this is a game changer. And that's why I feel like my relationship with Dane is so much more successful and enlightened than I ever had in 15 years because I learned about the masculine
Now,
and
let me
feminine
ask
energy.
you this question, Robin. If you weren't working on that, right? Because obviously you're very conscious of your feminine energy. You're working on that. You recognize where Dane, it needs some coaching as well. And obviously you guys are being very gracious towards one another and you're working together to achieve that. If you had entered this relationship with Dane and he has this mother wound and he doesn't have a lot of this feminine, he's like just all masculine and just like no balance there. And you stepped in and were like, not as educated as you are, right? And we're irritated often by him not tapping into his feminine. First of all, I would love to know what does not tapping into his feminine look like? And two, this is my prediction. Could you bring out this toxic masculinity in him by you being overly masculine in how you talk with him? And could that destroy the relationship, make him look like the bad guy when really it could have been prevented by you
100%.
tapping in more into your femininity, and there being, just encouraging or energizing the relationship to be more in balance.
Oh yeah. We've hit a lot of big crossroads actually on this exact topic, where I was like, hey, you can't understand this, and we can't have like different growth and change. Like, this isn't going to work for me, and vice versa. Like, he had a time in our relationship where he was like, you're very controlling and you're bossing me around and, all these different things. And my rebuttal was, that's because you're actually not stepping in your masculine. I don't want to do this. In fact, it infuriates me that I have to step up, be a provider, do all these things. And so we've had to balance that. But we've also found this mother wound now that when I step into my femininity, because he has that wound, I'm his mother.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be his mother. And so until he fixes his wound, he perceives my femininity
but you have
as
to take care
a
of
mom.
him. Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I do not want to be your mom. I do.
Yeah.
And so it's like this catalyst of problems that until what we kind of learned through lots of coaching and lots of studying on my own is he's got to fix his mother wound, because I'm not allowed to be my feminine without it just triggers him. And so he has to fix his wound. Otherwise my feminine comes off as like mothering him. And then he's like, you're bossing me around. I'm like, actually, no, I'm trying to lean into my feminine, but you have an issue with this mother wound. And so there's like a whole bunch, but yes, I have also learned that I have to give space for his masculine. So I've pulled back and been like, hey, I actually don't want to make all the money. I don't want to do all these things. And I've pulled back my masculine because it's a yin and yang. It literally has to be in perfect synchronicity.
Yeah.
So if I have too much, he can't be one or the other. So I've pulled mine back. But guess what? If he doesn't fill that hole, we're not going to be seen.
And I think that's what I think when I was listening to the book, the good part about it, I think it's worked for, I think it works for the people that have the foundation of that work, right? And it's kind of the same thing. I think like for me, when I think of feminism, like in our household, we don't worry so much about who makes the money, who's cleaning. It's so because that's what works for us, right? Because we all have different roles that we're taking on. But I think like if I kind of also have a masculinity thing where I take a lot of the charge, but that doesn't take away from your host. But sometimes I have to be the one that be like, I would like you. Cause he's like, I don't want it. If you don't have to work, if you don't want to, but I would like you to do this. I would like you to do that. But I think in general though, you have to find people that are willing, the other men, right? I can do all the work and I can become vulnerable. I can become all this thing to be that femininity, to make sure that I'm not dehumanizing him. I'm not doing all this thing. But if he's not in that space, have the train or even the tools to be in that yang that we're talking about, then it's not going to receive. Because then you have one person that's like, oh my gosh, I'm being vulnerable, but then you're hurting me every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you letting me fall
right.
every single time. Because then that's what we see now in the women now that went to divorce, that were abused, that were this thing. They can't trust a lot of people because the people before that has hurt them so much when they were vulnerable, when they give the whole self and they were in that femininity, right? Because they're like, you're too hard, you're too, and I think when I'm speaking of the Black culture, when you look at Black women, they're like, you're hard, you're this, and this. But then when you look at the history of what they
Black
had to go through,
yeah.
They're handling the household, they're single mothers, and they had to be those things. So for them to entrust somebody to come in, you have to be that safe space because we want to fall. We've had to be hard for so long that we want somebody to allow us to sit in that femininity. But if you're not going to be safe for me to do that, I'm not going to do that, because last time we did that, somebody hurt me, so
and that the book covers all of that so well. It talks about how if you have trouble being dependent on a man, it's because it's a trauma response.
Yep. Yeah.
And it does, like I said before, it has chapters on single moms or single women who don't have a masculine in their home, right? And what they can do about it. But the thing about this is so eye-opening for me is that I feel like there's so many women, and I know this because of my work with Get Out There Girl.
Yeah.
There's so many women who are exhausted.
Yes.
They're at their breaking point.
Because we weren't designed for this weight.
No, we really weren't. And that's the thing, is that you will always reach your breaking point. You can go chase your dreams. You can try to get that corporate job.
Yeah,
you can become the CEO. You can make a company. You can accomplish every single one of your dreams, right? But at some point, you're going to reach a breaking point because you were built more to trust and to relax and to receive than to go and to build and produce.
Yeah.
You can provide and protect for your family but at some point you're gonna break down because you weren't built for it.
Yeah, because I think deep inside, every woman wants that. Like, I think that's what we're saying. I think they want that. They want somebody to come and take care of them.
Yes.
I think we want to be taken care of.
And it's not the want I need to be sipping margaritas by the pool and with my feet up and somebody fan me all the time. Like, I like working. And she even has a chapter in here on owning a business from a feminine energy standpoint. So she covers so many bases in here, and it's so wonderful. But even as she described how to own a business and operate a business, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I've been trying to do. Get out there, girl. Like, that's my ideal. And I read the paragraph to Benton, and he was like, that sounds like hell. And I'm like, I know, because
you're not.
He's like, that's not where
we're
it doesn't
so
work
different.
For him. It doesn't work for him. Yeah.
It talks about feelings. Like, one thing I feel like I need to talk about my feelings all the time. And Benton, sometimes I get worried because I'm like, he's not talking about his feelings. Like, when he resigned from being the CEO of Harmon Brothers, I was like,
pour your heart out to me.
You need to talk to me. You should be talking. Like, you're bottling it all up. This is going to come up. And in the book, she claims, she's like, men can handle a lot of stress. Men can actually handle way more stress than women. They don't need to talk about their feelings all the time like we do.
I think I was born like, I think I got a little man in me. Like, don't talk to, I don't want to talk about no feelings. Okay. Just take it somewhere else.
But that might be true for you, Vanessa, but still innately you have that mother's intuition.
Oh, I do.
You have that female superpower where your emotions can guide you.
Yeah. But I was raised by a single mom. And so my mom to me was probably one of the strongest women that I know. So strength, like, and then her children was her strength, but me, like, I'm kind of hard. Like, I'm very
But you've been
much
through some stuff, Vanessa.
Yeah, exactly. And I always says, like, but when I was looking to get married, I'm like, I want somebody that's going to love me unconditionally. And I think that's one thing that the Lord gave me is a husband that loves me unconditionally, because I literally boss that man around, and he doesn't like being bossed around. Like, he's like, if we get a divorce, it's because you boss me around too much,
Well, actually, speaking like from trauma-informed place, because of your trauma, you probably are embodying too much masculine.
Oh, I do. Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
And it sounds like you know that. Like,
I do.
She's pretty gracious to you.
Yeah,
I
he's
tone
pretty
it down because
gracious.
he's so gracious. Like, he's like, okay. In the case, like, who's the boss? And I'm like, then that's Sam, the boss of the house. He's like, but you are.
You're the boss.
Okay, I want to wrap up. There's so much more conversation. Like, we could talk about this for so long. I literally have a Marco Polo book club where we talk about it all the time.
Awesome.
And then I've been telling everybody, and I have a million Marco Polos about it right now. And like I said at the beginning, I've been talking to Benton about this for at least an hour every day. I go over everything with him and we talk about it. But I wanted to read this because I feel like what I was talking about, women in our generation are struggling. I have so many women who come on my trips to try to escape. Like, I feel like we use vacations as an escape. We use social media as an escape. Like, so many of us are trying to escape our lives. And I would love if we could stop trying to escape, like learn how to sit and be happy in your life, and use vacations as an enjoyment, as a memory maker instead of as an escape. Because guess what? As soon as you come home, your problems are all still there.
Yeah. I believe that.
So here's this paragraph from the book. It says, trying to manage your feelings and put them under control, ignoring them, fighting them, quashing them down. Doing this only causes trouble. I work in emotional healing. And as it turns out, when we ignore our emotions, especially as women, our bodies suffer as a result. It all comes down to stress hormones. When we ignore our big feelings, our bodies secrete stress hormones in response. Those hormones mess with our digestion, our menstrual cycles, our thyroids, and basically everything. This is why the number one thing doctors say in response to virtually any health issue is reduce your stress. Easy, right? We can laugh. I'm here to tell you the only way to actually permanently reduce your stress and find the physical, body, and emotional healing you are looking for is to step into your feminine energy by specifically feeling your feelings every day on purpose and allowing them to ripple and flow through your body. Feminine energy is an embodied energy. Our connection to our bodies is so much more thorough and so much deeper than men can understand. We have to be attuned to our bodies and our emotions in a way that men do not need to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my takeaway from that is if you have thyroid problems, if you have hormone problems, if you have digestive problems, that's a clue that something's off in your life in such a way that you're not tapping into your femininity, and like, let's work on that.
For
Let's
sure.
work on that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, I want to read this book now. And I was a skeptic when I first heard the title. I was like, what? I didn't
Yeah,
know
me
what it was
too.
going to be
Me
all
too.
about. But you've definitely sold me. And I think it would be a really cool experiment to see if you just try it out with your significant other, whoever, maybe whether it's boyfriend, husband, or, family relationships, if you're not in a relationship. And let's see if the men in our lives, wherever they are, fill in that gap or not. Maybe they won't, but let's just a couple little testers and just see. I wonder if in some situations the men will rise to the occasion, but we won't be able to do it unless we just put a couple little testers out there and see. It doesn't have to be a big test. It could be just little small things here and there. And then if they pass, okay, let's try a bigger one. What do you
And just
think?
question yourself, like, why do you control things? 100% for me, when I question it, it's always because I'm scared. I don't trust other people.
Mhm.
I have a lot of trust issues. I don't trust other people to take care of me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I take care of myself. And
Mhm.
I've always prized myself on that. And
Mhm.
after reading this book, I'm like, oh, maybe that's
Mhm.
not such an accolade that I should pat myself on the
Yeah.
back for.
Mhm.
Maybe I need to do some more digging and see how to trust people
And
more.
I think we said it's just trauma. And then if you don't work through the trauma and you have to work through the trauma, it's gonna be hard to
Mhm.
get there. Of course, play out. But I think sometimes it's just the people that has gone to trauma and hurt, it's gonna take them a while to build that trust. So
Mhm.
it's just, I think if you have been to trauma and you want to try this, address the trauma.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if you don't address it, then you're not gonna be able to get the full experience of
100%.
this. So.
And maybe when you notice yourself getting triggered, instead just be aware and then kind of go deeper. Like if you're feeling anger is a secondary emotion, right? Why am I angry? What's the true emotion, the deeper emotion that's feeling there? So in your case, you gave the example, your first emotion was anger. But when you tapped into it, you're able to tell your husband, I feel sad, versus telling him, I'm mad at you, right? I just feel sad about this. No blame, no
Do
shame.
you guys use the emotion wheel?
That's actually, I have one printed off and a giant one I'm putting on my bedroom
So all
door.
my kids have it in their room.
I love
We have
that.
a pillow. So once you start this work, I'm like, oh, Brittany's gone down the rabbit hole.
She's gonna go down a
She's
rabbit
going to get an emotion wheel. Like
Yeah.
we talk about that with all my kids, and like that, there's so much behind that. But I did 2 years therapy. It's called Integral Family Systems, and it teaches you all about your emotions and how
Did you say internal family systems? I'm going to start that in my therapy.
IFS. Yeah,
I
it's
can't
really
wait.
good.
Okay.
And it teaches you all about how we're only taught about the five emotions, which is the center of the wheel. That's actually just the surface. We have to address these, there's almost 100 different emotions. And so they teach you as a grown adult, and now my children are learning it, how pick whatever emotion you think, happy, sad, there's 5 of them. That's actually not what you're feeling. And then you move down until you find what you're really feeling. Then you find it in your body. Like fear shows up in my spine. Anxiety, I can feel it in my hips. Like finding it in your body, it literally will change your whole life, all your relationships. But then you tie that into feminine and masculine. It's like, why did we ever even go to school? Why were we not taught all this? It makes so much sense. But I'm like, you got the emotion wheel.
Well, because
it's
the
game
emotion
on.
wheel, like when I think about my feelings, I always come up with ED words. And
Which
in
is
the book,
blaming
they claim,
almost,
yes,
right? It's putting responsibility on somebody else, if you think about it, for how
Exactly.
you're feeling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I need help. I'm like, I don't know what I'm feeling. If I can't use the word
I think
disappointment, or if I can't
Yeah.
use the word annoyed or something like that, then I need a feeling wheel to help me. Like I need a list of emotions to go through because my brain can't even.
So they
think what-
actually,
Yeah, that's the codependent attachment that you and I have.
Mm.
Because
That's
I
why.
think for me, one thing that I do, because I don't know, I feel like finding balance. I've done some work. Of course, being in psychology, you kind of like, either crazy or you got it together. So trying to keep it together. But I think for me, when I find myself in the situation where it's just like the emotion, like same thing. I educate my daughter like how to, and she's surprising because that girl is well balanced. And I think for me, the way that it handles, it's like in that second, right? That the whole work you're doing with the wheel, because we teach our kids in foster care too. But it's like when you're in that moment, if you take 2 steps, just close your eyes a second. If you feel like you can take that 2-step, we call it a 2-step back, and then just close your eyes and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And then listen to your body, like really listen to it. And you'll find yourself being like you say, it's not, oh, I'm in control. Why am I about to let go and let somebody else take control of my emotions? And so it's really learning, like when I get in a space where I'm about to lose it, even with my kids, I'm like, hold up. This bedroom has nothing to do with me that you're not cleaning it. So I'm not going to lose my mind and get in all this craziness let me take a step back and then let's have a conversation. And that really helps because then what you just did, it's kind of like what they're saying, put your face in the ice water and it wakes you up. But you just give your body a little bit to like, oh, okay, we're not in fight or flight mode right here. This is just me about to go crazy for no reason.
This is not a crisis.
Exactly. So let's adjust and go from there. So yeah. I
love it. That's
but
good.
Anyway,
Great conversation,
Great book.
ladies. So the book again is Magnetic Femininity, Unlock Your Feminine Majesty and Heal Your Life by Allie Duzett. I hope you guys go pick up a copy or listen to it on Audible.
topic. That was awesome.
See you
Great
next
job.
time.
Great job, Britt.
Bye.
Thanks for joining our Brave conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a positive review and subscribe to this podcast for more Brave conversations. We encourage you to be brave and continue the conversation on our social media platforms everywhere at The Brave Talk Show. See you next week.
How you do the things that you do.